Birds are beautiful and colorful, and their unique ability of flight makes them a conspicuous part of our environment. Most birds feed on insects and in the process help in reducing the harmful impacts of insect pests, of crops and vectors of human diseases. Many other birds feed on plant nectar and help to pollinate the plant as they move from flower to flower in search of nectar. As pollinators, they are therefore valuable contributors to the production of some of our fruit crops. The aesthetic and colorful diversity of birds and these very important roles that they play in the environment has attracted a lot of interest in birds, both as a subject of academic study or mythology and as a relaxing pastime and hobby, bird watching.
You cannot go planting from all over the place. You plant around you. If you do, it's very easy to see the results because birds will start to come. And when birds start coming, other animals will come. And as he said, birds are very, even if you don't notice them, they are there. And they are the first to disappear when the wilderness starts going bad. And they are the first to colonize. So you will see in your lifetime, you will see the results. Because once you plant these ornamentals and they start flowering, flowers start coming out, birds will start to visit. Some will visit for the flowers, some will visit for the fruits, some will visit for just the shade.
The AP Leventis Ornithological Research Institute, APLORI, located in Jos, Nigeria, is the foremost institute dedicated to the study and conservation of birds and biodiversity in West Africa. It was founded in 2002 by the Tasso Leventis Conservation Foundation with the main objectives to build capacity for ornithology and conservation, to facilitate fundamental research in tropical ecology, and more recently, to promote public participation in birds and biodiversity conservation.
This place has actually opened my eyes so much to conservation biology, not just at a regional scale or at a national scale, but at a global scale.
I was opportune to start working at the Forestry Development Authority in Liberia, as I was working on a project on the IUCN management of natural resources shared between the Mano River Union countries, which is Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. So I got more into conservation, where I was able to speak with the locals, talk to them about how to manage their resources sustainably and also provide sustainable livelihood, as in cash crops and things, that they don't go into the forest and degrade the forest or cut down trees or hunt the animals as well. Because going back in our history in Liberia, we've had so many civil unrest and Ebola virus outbreaks, so people still go into the forest, hunt and do other things because awareness have not been done. And coming here at APLORI, I've been enlightened to know or educate people on conserving biodiversity and the prospects that it holds. And I feel like going back home, I can be able to motivate more youngsters or more youth to actually pursue this course, actually educate the populace on how to conserve biodiversity, which we can also have an extra source of income where we can focus on ecotourism and bring people into the country and generate revenue.
Between 2001, when the institute was established, and now we've trained over 100 Nigerians with master's degree in conservation biology. A good number of them, over 40% of them, have gone ahead and taken PhDs and are in various positions in government and in the private sector.
My stay so far here has been great. I've learned new things. When I got here, I couldn't even operate the binos, but now I can even trace birds when they are flying. I've come to realize it's not just only about birds, but it's also about plants and other things that we find in the environment. I really want to continue to develop myself. After here, I want to be a lecturer, pass down the knowledge I've gotten from here to people down in Ghana. and then continue to educate people about conservation biology and how the environment helps us. If we are to degrade the environment right now, it means there won't be any place for our birds, mammals, reptiles, and other living creatures.
The Nigeria Bird Atlas project is an initiative of APLORI, and the main goal of the project is to update information about birds and map the distribution of birds in Nigeria. Knowing where birds occur is one of the fundamental pieces of information we need if we are going to be able to conserve them. And as it is with all biodiversity, birds are also in danger. As human populations continue to increase, the demand on natural resources increases, and it means that the habitat for birds is being lost. But if we must do anything about birds, then we really need to know where they can be found, and we really need to understand what's going on with birds in the environment.
Through a National Geographic Society grant, the Nigeria Bird Atlas project has begun organizing short field courses to train young Nigerians in bird identification and biodiversity surveys. These trained volunteers are subsequently organized into bird and nature clubs, where they are making very valuable contribution to the Nigerian Bird Atlas project and to biodiversity conservation in Nigeria.
We go around mapping the distribution of birds, but then we realize that it's not everywhere we have been able to reach. That is the reason why this program is organized. We selected participants from places that we know we have not been able to reach. And then, apart from the fact that we selected them from places we've not been able to reach, we also selected people that we know nothing about birds, because we want to come and give them basic ornithology knowledge, so that when they leave this place, they go back to their various destinations and independently birdwatch and helping us collect data onto the Nigerian Bird Atlas project.
The high point of the introductory field ornithology course, it's actually the mist netting and the ringing. One gets to explore the field and gain relevant experiences in field ornithology, research methods in ornithology, and the most amazing aspect of this field course so far is the mist netting with Dr. Yakat. I got to trap birds in the nets, and there are lots of data you could collect with that data. You don't just ring the birds, we record traits like the bill, the size of the length of the shape of the bill of the bird, the wing length, and all traits, and that depends on what you want to study and what you are looking at.
One of the main reasons for this particular course is that we wanted people to get interested in birds, not just the biologists or the ornithologists, but people from every walks of life. So it's one of the reasons we have this course. And thanks to National Geographic, we got the grant, and now we have students that are pharmacists, psychologists, architecture. They're all here studying and looking at birds and learning about the environment. So this is one of the beauty of this course. It's really been fascinating interacting with these people who have a completely different perspective.
Seeing where I'm coming from as an architect, I know that somehow I should be able to merge the built environment with the conservation, trying to know when and where necessary the EIA has to come in, because we need to create conducive habitats for this bird.
So currently we're learning the mist netting technique, and basically you just put up a net. It's actually done by professionals. So Dr. Yakat will put up a net, and then we stay quiet, and then we observe, and then after a while, maybe 30 minutes or 1 hour, they check and then see if it catches a bird or not. Usually it does, because the nets are being set in places of high activity, like high bird activity.
idea of the course was to pick people from different backgrounds to come together to learn basics of ornithology, being a field that is growing in Nigeria. And it was interesting to see that people were picked from different geopolitical zones with different backgrounds, some even undergraduates. And when we got here, I noticed that we had different levels of knowledge. But in the last 3 weeks, with a lot of professionals, facilitators around, there has been a great impact on these participants, and they've grown very, very fast in assimilating what has been taught. A lot of them are very enthusiastic about what they have learned here and how they are going to apply it. So it's a laudable exposure, and we are very sure that more of this will happen in the nearest future.
My interest to learn about birds developed from my BSc research work at the University of Port Harcourt, where I did an ecological study of bird species of University of Port Harcourt. During that research work, initially when I started, I didn't have the feeling of birding, but as I progressed gradually in the research work and I started seeing new birds, it was like, it was fun at the same time contributing to knowledge. It boils down to the fact that you can actually be doing something meaningful at the same time deriving pleasure from it.
Nigeria is a vast country with a rich diversity of habitats, biodiversity, and natural resources. However, our rapidly growing population continues to increase dependency on these natural resources, leading to a loss of our biodiversity and natural resources, even before we fully discover the value and importance of these resources.
Before the Bird Atlas started, there were 2 bird clubs in Nigeria, and these bird clubs were mainly dominated by expatriates, people who came from outside the country, were working in Nigeria but were already into bird watching in their countries. So there was a bird club in Lagos, in Lekki, called the Lekki Bird Club, and the other bird club was in Ibadan, the Ibadan Bird Club, based at the International Institute for Tropical Agriculture. These 2 bird clubs were mainly dominated by expatriates. In 2015, when we started the Nigeria Bird Atlas project, we got in touch with the members of the Ibadan Bird Club and introduced the Atlas project to them. That has brought life to the Ibadan Bird Club, and now the Ibadan Bird Club is thriving and has more indigenous members. But since the project started in 2015, we've gone from 2 bird clubs in Nigeria to about 22 bird clubs in Nigeria. So if you go across the country, we have a bird club almost in every state in Nigeria.
Yeah, so I'm a member of Jos Bird Club, which is a local bird club in Jos. So before now, I see all birds as birds. You know, I didn't know so much about birds. But when I got into apiary, you know, going out for bird walk and all, I started knowing birds, that there were different kinds. And not just that they are just beautiful, but also the role they play in the environment.
The whole idea to map the birds is really good, but I think the biggest thing with the bird atlasing is that we're getting people out in nature who might never really have seen nature as something they want to do on their free Saturday. And I think that's really going to help conservation, that people are going to put a value of going out and seeing things. If a local area is threatened of being clear-felled, they might protest and say that, hey, this is where we want to spend our Saturday. So I think it's really exciting to see these bird clubs cropping up all over Nigeria.
At the Jos Bird Club, what we do is we go out monthly for bird watching. We select sites, different sites, based on what we think is best for us for the month. So we go to a certain site and then we watch birds. We watch the birds and then we use the Bird Lasser app. The Bird Lasser app is something we use on our phone, and we can be able to log in bird species that we see. So it's a way of actually checking what's happening with the population of birds and the distribution of birds. So it's actually citizen science collecting data for the Nigerian Bird Atlas project.
Bird atlasing is like the first step in bird learning in Nigeria. We have to come together, all of us, to actually document the birds we have in Nigeria. because there is lack of data on birds. So we have to all come together. We have to, even us that we are learning, we are part of this program, we will go and have a step-down program to people in our places so that they will learn and contribute, because this is a project that a single person cannot carry it alone. So it's like all part of the community work. So we are all going to impact the knowledge we learn, everybody, and to our various communities, and we will come up with good atlasing, bird atlasing in Nigeria.
One of the challenges we have though is that we get people interested in birds, they come to the bird club meetings, but they sometimes do not have the equipment they require to bird watch. So they need binoculars and bird books. And we are getting donations from organizations, international NGOs and other organizations that have been supporting us with donations of binoculars and bird books. So when we get this, we provide them for members of the bird clubs, and it helps them to enjoy their experience bird watching. Of course, this is something that is not part of our culture, so bird watching is not really a culture that we have in Nigeria, and it's something that is beginning to grow. So it's still quite a challenge to get people to join the bird clubs and to see the need or the importance of what we do with the bird clubs. But that is also changing, because when we started we had very few members in the bird clubs, but now our 22 bird clubs have over 800 members. So that is the bird watching community in Nigeria improving and growing from just about 100 people when we started to over 800 people who are interested in birds and biodiversity conservation in Nigeria.